Welcome to 3 Levels Deep. I'm Matt, and today I'm joined by Santo.
How you doing?
And Alex.
Heyo.
And we're just going to be talking about some stuff we've been playing lately, and got a little bit of news. And I'm going to actually be talking about something I read.
Ooh.
Oh.
Reading.
Reading on
that?
a gaming podcast? I know. But it's relevant.
All right. Well, I have been playing the hottest sequel, even hotter than the Caligula Effect 2, is the Somnium Files nirvanA initiative.
That sounds hotter than the weather outside.
Canadian summers. It's not just igloos up here, you know. Things gets warm. But yeah, it's not only warming up here, it's warming up in the Somnium Files because there's a new AI in town, and she's hot. She's over-sexualized to the max.
Okay.
Because this game is even hornier than the first one.
Oh boy.
That sounds difficult.
In nirvanA Initiative, you got a different protagonist this time, a guy by the name of Ryuki, and it actually like flips the dynamic of the first game, because in the first game you had Date, who was a horny old man in, you know, the young adult body, basically, because it's Japan, you can't have old people in Japanese games for old protagonists for whatever reason. And his AI eyeball that he had in him, Aiba, was kind of played the straight man most of the time and like kind of kept him in check. But this time, it's the AI that's horny as hell and making a bunch of fucking sex jokes and innuendo. And is also dressed up kind of like a dominatrix. But
That just sounds like par for the course for anime these days.
absolutely. So he is investigating the half-body serial killings, where people are being split down the middle at the molecular level and being left around.
Hold on. What? How? Okay, stay with me here. Wouldn't all splitting of bodies be at the molecular level, if you think about it? Like, if I chop your arm off, I split the arm off. I split the arm molecules off of the body molecules. It sounds fancy. It's not.
Yeah, I know, but like...
That reminds me actually of this like manga I read a long time ago about a sword that like can split at the molecular level, and it's just like, it's so sharp that the tip of the sword is only 1 molecule wide, and therefore it can cut anything perfectly.
They mentioned that in Stargate Continuum. All right, it's
also
it's
ridiculous.
a well-worn concept. That's
it's
awesome.
Ridiculous. It's not how swords work, to be honest. But
regardless, half of people's bodies are just showing up all over the place, and it's Ryuki's job to kind of figure out why.
Is the other half still alive?
I mean, I'm gonna bisect you right now. Do you think one of your halves is gonna live and the other half's gonna die?
Maybe if they only find half, it'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like, you got 2 lungs, you got 2 kidneys, like, you lose one, whatever, it's fine.
I mean, this is anime. You can
Got
lose
2 testicles.
You can lose so much blood and still be walking around.
I mean,
fine.
okay,
True.
so, even your brain comes in halves. But importantly, I think this is why when you get cut in half, you don't survive. It's because your left brain controls the right body, and the right brain controls your left body. So if you want to survive bisection, you have to switch the brains.
What about that, like, weird condition where people's, like, organs are like on the opposite side or whatever?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
What is like does their like left brain right brain happen that way either?
Oh, that's a great question. I have no idea.
If people with that condition still have like the left brain controlling the left and right brain controlling the right or whatever, but like it's actually like right brain controls the right half, left brain controls the left half. If that's true, then I'm surprised it wasn't a twist in this game, because that sounds exactly like the kind of stuff that's up this game's alley. So yeah, you're investigating this like in the same way as the first game by doing these investigation sequences where you like kind of look at things in the environment and talk to people, as well as the somniums, which are you going into people's minds, into their dreamscapes, and kind of like interacting with their subconscious. And all of those are pretty much the same as the first one, being like really cool visually and a lot of like surrealist things happening, but they're kind of a pain in the ass, like gameplay wise. So a good thing about the game is that they introduce difficulty levels for these to basically make it so that you have like a lot less or like virtually no time pressure, because that's the entire difficulty, is like trying to complete these sections within a certain time, where you don't really, because they're surrealist, you don't have a great grasp on like what is needed to proceed. Sometimes the non-obvious option is the one you actually need to do. So, and they also had a map to these and like markers and stuff. So it's, in terms of how the game plays, it plays much better than the first one. In terms of like the story, I think that the story is a bit worse than the first game. There's a lot of like really cool parts to it. There, like, the theme of the game is all about simulation theory. The theory that the world we live in isn't real, it's a simulation by some other like advanced race or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people have convinced themselves that like it is statistically a lot of people have convinced themselves it is a statistical certainty that we live in a simulation. Those people are thinking too hard.
Yes, that is brought up in this game. But there are other things that this game brings up that almost convince me. Like, but like the like lengths at which they go to make it seem viable are hilarious. There's references to like Hinduism and like Buddhist Zen philosophy to try and prove that the world is a simulation.
Oh my god.
And stuff. And like, I don't even want to like spoil any of the like kind of links that they try to make between the two, because they're so batshit and out there. It's great. Along with these like half bodies that are showing up everywhere, there's these weird like vaporwave like videos that are being sent out that are like maybe making people crazy. And what
Vaporwave will do that.
Vaporwaves will do that.
Is that why the world's going crazy? Too much vaporwave?
Yeah. And actually the first body that shows up like has a QR code on a sign staked to it. And the QR code works. It takes you to an unlisted YouTube video of one of the weird vaporwavy things. So they thought of everything there. It's really cool. There's a Tamagotchi in the game, because why not?
Well, that's clearly the highlight.
Yeah. There's also a lot more musical numbers in the first game, which I was surprised by. But I don't know. This game's all over the fucking place, man. I did enjoy my time with it, but I think that you shouldn't play unless you played the first one. There's not even that much. There's barely anything linking the two in terms of plot-wise, but you should play the first one because it references it in a decent number of jokes. So play the first one. It's also great, so do that. And I also think that the game as it stands right now is maybe wait for a sale, because it's $50 US, so like 70 something Canadian. And it uses like a lot of assets from the first game, and it is like, mostly a visual novel-esque kind of thing. Like, it really doesn't feel like it should have been as expensive as it is.
Yeah, that's like AAA game title price.
Yeah.
It's like single A game title price. This just a notch below. But yeah, it's a lot more of the same from the first game in terms of like style, jokes, philosophy, themes, and all that stuff. But it's still pretty damn good. The two problems I have is that there's too many action sequences that are just like not very good. Like, they didn't put the budget into like the animation to make them as flashy as they want them to be. And I'm not the biggest fan of QuickTime events, as I don't know who is. Like, your game has to use the QuickTime events as well, and this doesn't uses them pretty stock.
There's only one QuickTime event that I'm ever in favor of, and that's when you press F.
God damn it.
Oh no, I like the sequence in Heavy Rain where you can just fail every QuickTime event and it just turns into a slapstick comedy chase scene.
The only game with good QuickTime events is Asura's Wrath. That's the only one.
Yeah.
Because there's one part in Asura's Wrath where like there's like you're doing QuickTime events and then there's just like 100 like squares on the screen, and every time you press square, one of them disappears, and you just gotta keep hammering on the damn thing. Like it presents the QuickTime event in actually a fun way, whereas most of them is just like, here's a button, here's a direction. Maybe the button in the direction is like on like the hand of the thing that's doing the action, but whatever. And the second thing is that this game has a pretty big twist in it, and I didn't really like it that much. It felt really like cheap and stupid, as opposed to the twist of the first game being like really well done and like well thought out. So I don't know. But I again, even despite those things, I still think it's worth playing. And yeah.
Well, speaking of QuickTime events, the game I'm going to talk about today actually has some QuickTime events in a way as well. I'm talking about Bug Fables, the Everlasting Spring. And Bug Fables is an action RPG very much in the vein of Paper Mario.
Nice.
And by very much in the vein of Paper Mario, I mean they ripped off Paper Mario about as hard as they could without Nintendo suing them.
Legally distinct Paper Mario.
It's legally distinct Paper Mario, yeah. Everything about this game. Like, I knew that it was like Paper Mario. I didn't expect how fully it is a Paper Mario game. You know, when you level up, you get a choice of health, medal points, and MP, or whatever they call it, exactly the same as you do in Paper Mario. The UI is exactly the same as Paper Mario. The in-game menus look like it looks like Paper Mario in the menus. The QuickTime event, so for those of you who've played Paper Mario, you'll know that there's some events like holding the stick to the left and then winding up your hammer. In this game, you hold your stick down to wind up your beetle horn.
See, totally different.
Yeah. But very much a lot of the sort of various action elements in order to do more damage for your attacks are actually not explicit. They're not all cribbed exactly from Paper Mario. I actually think this is one of the ways in which the game is innovated, is that it actually has a lot more variety in the sort of events that you use to increase your damage, which is kind of cool. It actually innovates a bit on the battle form of the Paper Mario games. It's got a lot more like interesting status effects. And the status effects, like there's kind of like interactions sometimes that you wouldn't see in the Paper Mario games. One of the really cool things is that in Paper Mario, you have ground enemies and flying enemies. This game introduces a new type, which is the Burrowed Enemy. And different attacks can hit different kinds of enemies. A lot of attacks that can hit aerial enemies will also hit ground enemies. Attacks that hit burrowed enemies also hit ground enemies. And then there's a few attacks that only hit normal ground enemies. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool in that it's basically a Paper Mario game, but it's actually innovated on the battle system a little bit with some new stuff that was never in any of the Paper Mario battle systems. So I quite like that. In terms of the sort of story, it's definitely going for that like humorous theme of the Paper Mario games. I think it does a pretty good job. I don't think it's quite as good writing-wise as the Paper Mario games, which isn't terribly surprising since it's a fairly low-budget indie game. But it's not bad. The story's enjoyable. It's a bit of a classic. It's actually like kind of like a classic sort of like medieval-ish, like swords and sorcery kind of setting, except everything's bugs. Right? So It's like your main party is a beetle with like a horn, a bee, and a moth.
Oh, moth's the most powerful.
Moth's a fucking ice magician. Like, I don't know why I don't know where they got that. Like, moth, yeah, ice magician. But hey.
I mean, they clearly like were spying on us that one time. That moth came in and flew directly into Matt's like Jack and Coke or whatever.
And you covered my glass too. It could not get it. That Jack and Coke was ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I was just looking above and I'm like, oh, it better not. And sure enough, just dive bombs my drink.
yeah. But yeah, and then a lot of the other stuff in the game is very similar to the Paper Mario games. You know, it's got some like simple puzzle elements, some simple platforming. The platforming's a bit finicky sometimes, as it is in Paper Mario. Let's be real. But overall, like it's a fun little game. It's not the hardest game in the world. I have been playing it with the hard mode badge enabled. And I have not really been struggling too much. There's maybe been like a couple of times where I felt that the game was actually becoming a bit more challenging. Like there was one of the boss fights, I actually had to try it like maybe 3 times to actually beat it, 3 or 4 times with the hard mode badge enabled. But that's kind of what I want, right? Like I've played enough Paper Mario games that like I kind of know how the battle system works. You know, I've got pretty good timing with it. So that's really, it's nice that they give you that option right at the beginning of the game, because I think they know a lot of people have played a bunch of Paper Mario games and are probably going to want a bit of extra challenge. Because without the hard mode enabled, I would say that the game is just like too easy.
Right.
But that's coming from someone who's played a bunch of Paper Mario games. So if you like the Paper Mario games, I would say it's worth a shot. It's a fun little game. It's on Game Pass actually, which is how I got it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a neat one. It's Paper Mario. It's Paper Mario. It's off-brand Paper Mario. That's really all there is to it. I think I would really be interested to see if Nintendo were to actually crib some of the battle mechanics that they kind of added into a Paper Mario game in the future. That'd be kind of funny. Maybe they already have. I haven't actually played the most recent Paper Mario game, and I can't remember if it's newer than this game.
Yeah, I mean, they do like a teensy bit of that with like, you can't jump on a spine either, or you'll get hurt. Like, there's a little bit of like, certain attacks don't work on certain enemies, but
yeah.
What from you're saying like enemies having different types, like that sounds a lot more like they fleshed it out.
Yeah, so there's flying and ground. That's just like referring to their how high they are. Actually, enemies also have weaknesses where they'll take extra damage from particular types of attacks.
Right.
So some enemies, for example, are weak to ice. And so you want to use the ice magic against them because it'll do more damage. Another cool thing they have in this game with the battle system is that, so you have a party of 3, and the thing is, sometimes you're going to have an enemy or enemies where a character can't actually do anything. I believe this could actually happen to you in Paper Mario as well. In Paper Mario, if it happened to you, you're just shit out of luck. Like, you have no choice. But in Paper Mario, they had a thing where you could like use Mario or the sidekick first, so you could switch which one went first. But Bug Fables not only has that, so you can use the 3 characters in any order you like, but you also have an ability to support another character instead of taking an action with that character. So if you've got the Beetle, for example, the Beetle character can't actually hit aerial enemies with most of his attacks because, he's more of like a ground character. So if you only have aerial enemies, what you can do is you can take the Beetle and get him to support, the bee or the moth to actually use those other abilities that those characters have that can hit aerial enemies. And I kind of like that because it adds a bit of depth. And then you also have to consider, sort of weaknesses. Again, ice magic's powerful, so or more powerful against certain characters, so you might want to use that. Or maybe you want to use like some status effects and stuff. Like there's some of the ice magic abilities can actually freeze a character, an enemy, I should say. And then, if you freeze the enemy, they don't attack that turn, which is really good for you. So in the hard mode, I've found that I have to use a lot of my special abilities. I have to use my items because otherwise I just won't be able to survive the, boss encounters and between save points and stuff like that. Which I actually like. It's one of there's not a lot of games, RPGs especially, where I'm like, oh yeah, I have to use every single item I can get my hands on. Otherwise I'm just going to die. Usually I tend to hoard items and just not use them ever. But I've been finding that with this game, especially on the hard mode, like I have to like use items and kind of plan things out a little bit, which is cool. It's not a super difficult game, to be clear, but it's interesting enough. So yeah, Bug Fables, a not bad Paper Mario game.
Nice.
This is something I think we're seeing more of from developers these days, where a developer clearly has a desire to make a particular Nintendo game, but they don't work at Nintendo. And they're like, I'm just going to make slightly off-brand Pokemon.
Yeah.
Or
we're getting to the age where the people that grew up with Nintendo games are coding now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. Like, it's such a lot of Nintendo games really are formulaic, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing. There's something to be said for having a formula that works and sticking to it. But at the same time, if that's all you're doing and you're not actually innovating on your form at all, then someone else can just come in and make the same game you're making with different art assets, and that's it. And hell, this game basically ripped off the entire Paper Mario style and just did it with... they just did it with bugs instead of Mario characters, and I don't think there's anything Nintendo can do about that.
No.
It's like you don't have a trademark on just putting flat sprites in a 3D environment. So
if Nintendo could have sent them a cease and desist already, they would have.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, that said, they don't really comment on the paper flatness of all the characters at all, really.
Okay.
Which is, yeah, I was sort of perhaps surprised because, like, in the Paper Mario games, they make some jokes about that and stuff like that. Some of the games have mechanics where, like, you fold Mario into a boat or a plane or something like that. Yeah. Or he goes sideways to slip through cracks, But the game didn't really have I haven't finished it, but I haven't really seen any of that from the game. And at this point, given how far I am in it, I doubt I'm going to. But yeah. I mean, they did crib entire level archetypes from Paper Mario, though. Like, every Paper Mario game, it seems, has the puzzly desert level. Yep. Where you have to find your way.
Always the worst part of the game.
Yeah, where you have to find your way through a shifting desert sand level of different screens. And this game has a puzzly desert level where you have to make your way through different screens, and it's... you're kind of unlocking new paths and stuff, and there's like weird puzzles about like, oh, how do I access this thing that isn't there initially? Just like the Paper Mario desert puzzle levels. So like, it really, really cribs super hard from the Paper Mario games. Which, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. I mean, if you like them, the game can be good. But I think it's not just a straight, like, they didn't just copy it, but they tried to add, their own kind of spin on some of the mechanics. I find, like, there's some interesting stuff there.
All right. Bugs.
Fables of bugs.
I love to eat bugs. At least I think they do. Turtles.
Turtles, eh?
I think that... Well, anyways, even if I'm wrong about that, I played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I did a co-op playthrough with a couple friends. yeah, that's just a solid beat 'em up.
Yeah,
I'd say the beat 'em up is dead, but I think that might. I think I might stand by that because I think this game is basically just coasting on nostalgia. I haven't played it. I just assume.
the only like Turtles game I ever really played was the NES beat 'em up. Not the like weird side scrolly like one with the overworld. That's way too difficult. But there was a beat 'em up for that NES that I played a bunch of.
Is it Turtles in Time?
Turtles in Time was for the Super Nintendo
Okay.
and the arcades, but there was like an older one.
Yeah, no, I just did a co-op playthrough with some friends for that because it was on Game Pass. We wanted to try it. Just under 3 hours for us to get through it.
Yeah.
Just a quick, fun experience. Great music. Music was done by T. Lopes, who also did the music for Sonic Mania.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. After, I want to say about a decade, I finally finished the second case in Ace Attorney Apollo Justice.
Nice. About fucking time.
I was actually just talking to Santo before about how when I had originally played it, like on the day 2 of the investigation, there was something that I was missing that was keeping me from progressing. And I just could not find whatever this trigger was that was keeping me from progressing. I breezed through it this time. Nothing stopped me.
Oh wow.
There was no looking for a trigger. I just went through day 2 investigation, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing about the Phoenix Wright games is that sometimes I have definitely run into this where I know, like I've figured out what happened and I'm trying to like skip a step.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm trying to skip a step and the game doesn't recognize that like I know what I am trying to get Phoenix to point out, but I've missed one of the pieces that I'm supposed to prevent in the correct order of the logical chain of reasoning. And so the game's just like, no.
Yeah.
That's probably actually the biggest frustration about that series. Is that, like, 'cause realistically, you know, if you think about it, there are multiple ways to sort of draw the line. Like, there's multiple orders in which you can draw the lines of evidence to, like, prove a point. But the game really only has one that it supports.
It has the scripted order you need to present them in.
And like some games are just like better at that than others. Like there's a few instances in the first few games, actually, first 3 specifically, where you can present one of like 2 pieces of evidence to kind of make the same point. Whereas in the later games, it feels like, okay, like there's a point that has to do with like the gun and how the gun like killed the person. And it's like, do you present the gun to talk about or the autopsy report? And only one of those actually works. And I swear, like sometimes they're not consistent with that either.
Yeah.
And to your point about the investigation stuff, like that case for me in particular had one of the like most like difficult stumbling blocks for me. I definitely like just had a part where I was just like going to every single location and be like, okay, what fucking pixel did I miss when I'm looking around? Or like what like character profile or piece of evidence I just didn't present to somebody for some reason. But I mean, I think the game gets much better than that. I think the second case of Apollo Justice is one of the weaker ones in the series.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good case.
I just wasn't a fan of pretty much all the characters in that case. But the game gets better after that.
I think the only character in that case I liked was Guy Eldoon.
Noodle guy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And the Gavin, the prosecutor. He's one of my favorites. Yeah. Just fucking Euro trash.
But yeah, aside from those, I read Disrupting the Game by Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Oh. The tell-all?
Yep.
I don't know. Like is this something, obviously something that I wrote after he left Nintendo?
Yeah. Yeah, he wrote it after his retirement in 2019. It touches a little bit on the stuff he did afterwards, like just very briefly on the year he was on the board of or the committee or whatever for GameStop. But yeah, it starts out with him living in the Bronx as a kid. His time at Cornell, going to school for marketing, and his time at some of the companies he worked at leading up to Nintendo, like Panda Express's parent company,
Pizza Hut, obviously.
Pizza Hut, yep. But yeah, the big portion of the book is just the most interesting is just his time at Nintendo. And yeah, what I found really interesting was his first, or no, it wasn't his first time at E3, but it was when they first showed off the Wii in 2006 at E3. They had their presentation structured where they showed a little bit on Twilight Princess and then focus a lot on Wii Sports to show what the Wii can do with the controller.
Right.
So after the presentation to the press and other people and just the general audience, they had their presentation they had to give to retailers, and Iwata was actually pushing to switch, because for the retailer presentation they actually had it structured where they were going to focus more on Zelda and less on Wii Sports, because Reggie he knew that that's what the retailers want to see. They want to see the big name, the game that's going to sell. Mm-hmm. But Iwata was pushing to give the same presentation that they had given to the press. And Reggie kept pushing back to keep it as it was, because last-minute changes could result in technical difficulties. And he's the marketing, and he was in charge of marketing and sales for Nintendo America at that time. So he pushes back, and eventually Iwata relents, and they keep it as it is. Shortly after that, after E3, Reggie finds out that Iwata wants to come back from Japan to talk to him. And Reggie's thinking, I'm going to get reprimanded or fired. So he's putting together this whole 20-page document, showing that the retailers are interested and the way he pushed for it worked. He goes into his meeting with Iwata a week after E3, goes to hand him his little presentation. Iwata stops him, just puts a little piece, or a 2-page document in front of him. Subject line, promotion. Reads the opening line. I am pleased to offer you the position of President and Chief Operating Officer of Nintendo of America Incorporated. All Reggie could say was, oh my. He went to that meeting thinking he was going to get fired or reprimanded. Nope, promoted to president.
Yeah.
His body was Reggie.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it was a good read. I really liked it. Just getting into Reggie's thought process, behind the scenes of how he changed Nintendo, because at the time when he started Nintendo of America, they weren't really, because they were a subsidiary of Nintendo. Because they were a subsidiary of Nintendo, they didn't exactly do things in a traditional business sense. But he pushed to change things a lot, and even before he got hired, he pushed to have a meeting with Iwata, which was unheard of. So he, as he says, he disrupts the game.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things Nintendo's always struggled with, really, is that their management really focuses on the Japanese market.
Yeah.
But most of their sales are not in the Japanese market.
Yeah, and that's why Reggie was pushing, because he knew the Western market. So, and he was able to help some of the executives at Nintendo Japan see things that way a little better.
Yeah. I am kind of disappointed that, of the people at Nintendo now, it's like, is there a face of Nintendo anymore?
Like, not in the same way. There's like there's a couple of guys that always do the Nintendo Directs, but I don't actually know their names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
the personality isn't there anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when it came to their their keynotes and stuff, Reggie and Iwata
and Miyamoto sometimes as well.
Sometimes. I mean, Miyamoto, yeah, mostly on Miyamoto's games specifically,
Yeah.
but yeah, Miyamoto too. Like, they were always like, they were able to present like kind of a consistent sort of public face for the company. And I feel like they kind of don't have that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, Reggie was a meme machine.
He was a meme machine.
From his first public appearance at in a position at Nintendo, I believe it was the 2004 E3, just with his kicking ass and taking names line.
Yeah.
Just right there, just immediately the memes, the Reginator.
Yeah. Like, the Reginator was born that day.
The Reginator was born that day.
And like, when he... and like with Iwata and Reggie, like, they had fun with it for those presentations. Like, there was even that year where their entire direct was animated. Is that the right term that Robot Chicken uses? Because they had the Robot Chicken guys.
I mean, like, it was probably digital claymation,
Yeah.
but
they had their entire presentation done up by the Robot Chicken guys one year,
Yeah.
and that
and there was the intro with them as the puppets.
Yep.
It's like, what the hell?
I just love the bit of the guy in the crowd just, come on, Reggie, give us Mother 3. And Reggie's just like, how about this instead? Eats a fire flower and just shoots a fireball at the guy in the crowd.
Yeah. Like, yeah, they had fun. And now, like, the directs are just so, like...
Corporate.
Yeah, like...
Yeah, they're very sterile.
Here's a game. Please enjoy. Here's a game. Please enjoy. That's the fucking cadence of it.
And it's very rare you get someone actually... Like, you might, at the start of the direct, have someone there to, like, actually present something. But a lot of the time, it's just a narrator just going from product to product on the direct.
I'm like, where's Doug Bowser? Like, he took over for Reggie, and I'm like, okay, the dude's last name is Bowser.
Yeah, like that.
Like, I expected to see a lot more of him.
That
like,
really feels like it. Like, there's a huge opportunity there for just some like silly marketing gags.
Their initial reveal of like, hey, this is the guy that's taking over was like really funny because it was just like the new CEO or like new like head of Nintendo America is Bowser, and then like a CGI Bowser walks out on screen with a freaking tie or whatever. It's like, no, sorry, not you.
Yeah.
Like, they had fun with it then, but like, I guess he's there just doing the business stuff, not doing the
when he
face of the company stuff.
In the book, when Reggie talks about his departure from the company, he made sure like him and Doug Bowser reached out to like a bunch of their business partners and made calls to them and like made it clear to them that they're not, it's not going to be run the same way. Doug's going to be running things his way. That
right.
Things aren't going to be the same, and just like making sure that all their business partners knew that.
Man, who would have thought? Bowser's running the hard ship with no fun.
He's about efficiency, all right? Say what you will. He was able to capture the princess a lot of times.
Those airships don't come out of nowhere.
That's right. The military-industrial Koopa complex.
Yeah, if you have the chance, I would recommend giving Disrupting the Game a read. It's a good read. I enjoyed it.
Sweet. Do you know if there's an audiobook version? Because if there's an audiobook version with Reggie reading it...
Oh, that would be amazing.
I don't know, because I just read it on my Kindle, so I don't know.
Disrupting the Game, From the Bronx to the Top of Nintendo. Author, Reggie Fils-Aimé. Narrator, Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Fesame.
Fesame, whatever. He's Reggie. I don't need to know the last name.
But yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he narrated his own book. There you go.
Okay.
Sick.
So you can either read it like I did, or you can listen to it in probably the better way.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I've got a couple of news stories. How'd you like $20,000?
That would be nice. I would like that.
Well, popular streamer Moist Critical
Oh God.
has put out a $20,000 bounty for footage of completing Halo 2 on Legendary with all skulls on without dying.
No, not all skulls on. All skulls except one, which is the one skull that actually makes the game easier. So there's a skull that lets you turn invisible when your flashlight's on. And you're not, that one has to be off.
Okay.
As of last I heard, this has never been accomplished by anyone ever.
I think there's some people that claim they've done it, but there's no proof.
Yeah.
Which is what he wants. He wants the proof.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like he actually started at $5,000, and then after a couple weeks, I think he was just like, okay, I realized I was overconfident. I thought I could just wave a magic wand, so he increased the amount to try and get someone able to complete this. He in his own video said that he like can't complete the first level of the game in this mode because it's so difficult. Like,
Halo 2 is notorious for just how difficult it is when you throw on all the skulls. And I mean, even without it, those jackal snipers on Legendary are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I understand, it basically the only way to complete the challenge is to essentially beat the game in one sitting with no mistakes. Like one mistake and you're dead, basically.
I mean, I've seen it's doable. I've seen somebody get the achievement for completing every, like, there is an achievement for completing like from start to finish a world of Super Meat Boy without dying, and there's one of those for each world, including like the secret like insane levels. I've seen somebody get that, so it took them God knows how many tries, but there's a possibility there. I'm not attempting it.
I'm certainly not attempting. The only way I would attempt this is for laughs.
Not even the money.
I mean, there's no chance. There's zero chance. If people have been going at this for enough time, and there's already lots of people who have played an absolute ton of Halo 2, right? People have tried, I'm sure, to beat the game with all the skulls but one for quite a long time. People had beaten the game with all the skulls on before, but it's just that one skull makes the game slightly easier. And so, I don't know. I think it's probably doable, but it's going to take someone a lot of pain to actually do it.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of teenagers with no job and who are out of school right now since it's the summertime that are trying to beat Halo 2 Legendary with all but one skull right now.
Teenagers don't know what Halo 2
Yeah.
is. Well, come on.
They know who Moist Critical is and that he's
true.
offering $20,000 to someone who like gives a full video proof.
They know Master Chief from Fortnite.
Yeah. And like the Master Chief skin in Minecraft.
Oh, God.
And the other thing I wanted to talk about is, have either of you guys heard the legend of Let Me Solo Her?
No.
This sounds like a Dark Souls thing.
It's Elden Ring, actually.
Close enough.
So there's this player named Let Me Solo Her that basically, his in-game name is Let Me Solo Her, and he just puts his summon sign down in front of Malenia, the arguably hardest boss in Elden Ring. And at last I checked, he'd been summoned and defeated her 300 times, using nothing but dual-wield katanas, and his character being completely naked except for a pot on his head.
All right.
And yeah, so he got a lot of recognition for doing this from the community and even from the developers, because they sent him a replica sword from Elden Ring.
Wow.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not a replica of the katanas he used. It's just like a broadsword replica.
I mean, how many sword replicas do they have?
They should have sent him a pot in the mail. That's pretty crazy.
They could have sent him King Midas's clothes in the mail.
Yeah, when I got to Malenia, I looked for a summon sign. I didn't see it though. I was hoping I'd be able to summon him, but alas, no.
I think my favorite stupid Elden Ring thing I've seen was there's a YouTuber, Inferno Plus. He made Cursed Halo, but he also made a video of essentially defeating every single boss in Elden Ring in one shot.
Yep.
One hit.
Mm-hmm.
He was successful on, I believe, all but two bosses.
Yep.
And just ridiculous. I didn't like... It's not a game where you should be able to one-shot bosses, but he just like put together like ridiculous combo bullshit.
Yeah.
And
you can defeat the final boss in Dark Souls in one shot.
I've been wanting to play his Dark Souls 1 mod that adds the Halo weapons to the game.
yeah, I think I saw that.
I think in the first area where you start, I think the plasma pistol's hidden there. So you can fight the Asylum Demon with the plasma pistol.
That's so stupid.
All right, so is that it for this week?
I think so. Short one this week.
Yeah.
But if you're just starving for more content from us, we got a couple of 20 minutes till dawn videos up on the channel. So check those out. A couple solo runs, so let us solo them. And yeah, you can also check us out on Twitch, on Twitter, any other stuff on YouTube. It's all 3 levels deep. Except for Twitch, which is 3 levels deep TV, because there's some inactive people who are squatting on our damn name. We'll get you eventually.
Damn squatters.
So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.
Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario.
Paper Mario.
Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Mario. Paper Mario. Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. Paper Mario. It's legally distinct.